Today on Investigate TV, water beads are often labeled as non-toxic, but government safety officials and parents say they don't trust the packaging.
I wouldn't trust any non-toxic labeling on water beads. There's companies marking that on products.
Plus, families across the country are furious with the U.S. Postal Service after their loved ones' ashes were lost in the mail.
It's not, like a lost Christmas letter to Santa. This is my mom.
And mail carriers, known for their steadfastness in the face of adverse conditions, face a much more acute threat: armed robbery.
He saw me and came after me, attacked me.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. A government agency says you shouldn't trust non-toxic labels on everything, especially water beads. While many major retailers announced they'd no longer sell the product as toys, our team finds they're available, often with just a new description. We dig into what non-toxic really means and why one mom says the label is dangerous.
You would think if something said non-toxic that it literally meant that it had nothing in it that was potentially harmful. That's what you would think, and that is not the case.
7 years ago, a birthday gift picked out with care turned into a nightmare. Ashley Haugen's older daughter Abigail wanted water beads, tiny little plastic pieces that look almost like cupcake sprinkles that, when wet, expand into squishy orbs.
My husband and I originally, we told her, no, we're not buying it, it's weird. And she was like, no, look at it.
They used to be used mostly for decorations and flower vases and for keeping plants hydrated, but in the last decade have been marketed as toys and even sensory tools for children with autism or other types of neurodivergence.
Our Playbox is loved by therapists.
My husband and I, we researched the product online. It said that it was non-toxic, so it didn't have even a trace of harmful chemicals in it. It was biodegradable, reusable, eco-friendly, and it warned that it was a choking hazard. And the girls have separate play areas, so we thought that everything would be fine.
About a month after her older sister's birthday, little 1-year-old Kipley got a rash around her mouth. Doctors thought it wasn't anything more serious than a skin condition or a soap allergy. Then weeks later, Kipley wouldn't sleep. Ashley and her husband were at a loss.
By July, Kipley, she woke up and like I normally do, I would feed her, and when I fed her afterwards, she just started vomiting.
They took her to the ER.
But the surgeon came in and he said, look, I don't know what's wrong with your daughter, but if I don't do an emergency exploratory surgery, she's not gonna make it. So we all just sat and prayed, and the surgeon came out and he showed us a picture. And he said, do you know what this is? And the picture was of the water bead material that we had purchased for Abigail's 6th birthday.
You don't feel good.
After terrifying days, Kipley ultimately seemed to recover, but she slowly developed new strange symptoms. She was clumsy and jerking around and stopped answering to her name.
The developmental pediatrician, he ruled everything else that it could possibly be out, and he diagnosed her with toxic brain encephalopathy, which is a brain injury due to exposure to chemicals.
That chemical, she says, likely from the water beads, a toy Ashley thought was non-toxic.
Parents have no idea. They have no idea that there can be products in their houses that contain harmful chemicals, and they can be labeled as non-toxic, and companies can get away with it, especially companies overseas.
Are water beads non-toxic or toxic?
I wouldn't trust any non-toxic labeling on water beads. There's companies marking that on products, and there's not standards out there that say what non-toxic means.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission oversees thousands of product categories in the United States. They issue recalls with companies for things like toys that exceed lead paint regulations or break rules on choking hazards. But the way laws are written, they often have to negotiate with manufacturers and can't make immediate warnings. Those can take months or years. And according to Commissioner Richard Trumpka, the word non-toxic is no guarantee, especially when it comes to water beads.
CPSC's conducted testing of water beads and found concerning levels of acrylamides. It's not a label that the companies have run by us and gotten our approval on, or any other government agency, so I wouldn't take them at face value.
He says if a product has a hazardous substance, manufacturers are supposed to disclose that.
And if they're not doing that, it's a violation of the Federal Hazardous Substances Act. And if they're going beyond that and saying that a toxic product is non-toxic in their marketing, they're going to have a problem with the Federal Trade Commission.
Some products, like art supplies, have independent certification through organizations that test themselves and give their seal of approval, though we found many kids' art supplies labeled as non-toxic that aren't on the list of certified products. And with no pre-approval of these labels by our regulatory agency and the inability for the government to test every single product that goes to market, non-toxic has become nonsense to parents like Ashley.
All of us were thinking, okay, non-toxic, it's regulated, so it should be fine. She should be fine.
Our analysis of government data collected from around 100 emergency departments across the country shows that in 8 years, the number of kids going in for water bead-related injuries has been increasing. Trumpka says at least 8,000 kids have been hurt by water beads. At least one has died. The CPSC recently issued a recall of one kit and now has warned about the danger of all water beads.
We told retailers that these things pose a hazard and said, is this really what you want to be selling to your consumers? And then let them make the choice.
In December, Trumpka wrote to major retailers asking them to stop selling water beads. Many of them quickly made that commitment to pull products. Target, Walmart, Amazon, and others. Our team has watched listings disappear slowly online and products removed from shelves. We bought this Hobby Lobby kit. You can see water beads scratched off the package, and there are none inside the box.
I think at this point, we've made such tremendous progress that I'm very happy with where we're at.
Should Congress do more?
Congress could do more, and Chairman Pallone of the Energy and Commerce Committee is a real leader on this issue and has put forward a bill to ban water beads, which I support.
Because while many are gone, we found other stores online still selling them, some at a steep discount, as a last chance sale product.
I would certainly be concerned if companies see the writing on the wall and start trying to sell these off at a discount and make sure they're flooded into the market. What we have seen is commitments from some of these companies to destroy the inventory that they have in stock, which is a fantastically responsible move.
And we found there are still plenty of listings for water beads to be used in flower vases or as decor, some of them still brightly colored and appear to have been previously sold or used as toys, like this listing labeled as a decoration, but with an old review from someone showing a small child playing in a pool of them.
Toys and water beads for decor now. That's something that they've been pushing.
We showed them to Ashley.
7,000 bought in the past month, 3,000 bought in the past month. I think people are buying these and they have no idea what they are bringing into their homes.
And this is why she wants a full ban on water beads. And she's taken her fight to Washington.
I'm very hopeful.
Ashley is now known as that water bead lady, a title she proudly took as a representative for other parents. And she says there's more to be done.
I'm doing this because if I don't, kids are going to die.
She wants warnings on products that could kill or leave lifelong marks.
Getting rid of the water beads.
If we're supposed to protect our kids, which is what most loving, caring parents want to do, then we need that information in order to keep our kids safe.
Ashley said she spoke to multiple attorneys in an attempt to sue to help pay medical bills for issues that continue to this day. But she says no one would take her case because the manufacturer is overseas and there isn't much they could do. Coming up, the death of a loved one is one of life's toughest moments, but what if after death you lose them all over again because their remains get lost in the mail? What the government is doing to make sure families receive their loved ones. After the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. The U.S. Postal Service is the only courier allowed to ship cremated remains, known as cremains. Every year, tens of thousands of cremains are shipped, but since 2015, hundreds failed to make it to their final destination. Instead, our investigation discovered they are sitting in a secret USPS building to this day. Kristen Crowley tracked down people across the country who are missing cremains and sat down with a U.S. Senator to see what the government is doing to send these people to their final resting place.
She came into my life when I was 2 years old.
On paper, Amy Madru was Sarah Jelinik's stepmom. But to Sarah,
she's always my mom.
And she meant a lot to you.
She meant everything to me.
That's what made Amy's death from COPD in November 2021 so difficult.
It was really hard. It's been really hard. It's just like I lost my mom. I lost my best friend.
That loss was about to become so much harder than Sarah could even imagine. In December 2021, Sarah sent a portion of Amy's ashes through the U.S. Postal Service to be turned into a rock, a symbol of what Amy had been for her whole life. But Amy's cremains never made it to their destination.
It's not, like a lost Christmas letter to Santa. This is my mom.
Halfway across the country, Sarah had no idea she wasn't alone.
It's hard to comprehend. It's been so hard on our family.
Charlotte Dillon died unexpectedly on a visit to Oklahoma in early 2020. Her granddaughter, Michaela Eckler, says her ashes never arrived back home in South Carolina. And Michaela says USPS hasn't done anything about it. The Postal Service is the only carrier allowed to ship cremains in the USA, a responsibility Sarah and Michaela never questioned. But that was before they knew about an audit of how USPS handles cremains. That audit, released in July of 2023, found USPS was in custody of 452 undelivered cremains at its mail recovery center in Atlanta. It's important to note that number includes human and animal cremains, though both get the same label. Some had been there since 2015. In the audit, the Office of the Inspector General determined, quote, the Postal Service was not always in compliance with cremated remains acceptance procedures. Specifically, cremated remains packages were not always properly labeled. The reason that audit happened in the first place was because of this man.
I think at one point I told them it's not like they lost a rug that I ordered, they lost my mom.
Daniel Smith's mother's cremains were also lost in the mail back in 2022. The Indiana native contacted U.S. Senator Mike Braun, who demanded the audit. The Inspector General gave recommendations on what to do to prevent future loss of cremains, but didn't address what to do with the 452 cremains deemed undeliverable. It turns out they're still there, months after being discovered.
The Inspector General's office declined our request for an on-camera interview, but the United States Postal Service said it would answer our questions via email. It would not disclose the address of the mail recovery center, citing security concerns. It also said Michaela, Daniel, Sarah, or any other civilian cannot come inside to see if their loved one's cremains are there. So we asked, what efforts are being made to reunite these people with those lost packages? The USPS responded, the cremated remains packages are stored at the MRC indefinitely.
Senator Braun had no idea about this issue until we told him. He says it's unacceptable and vowed to look into it.
This is invaluable because it casts a broader light on things, and that means that I'm just hoping when we do get to the bottom of it that there's some satisfaction that they've been found.
I love that one.
For Sarah, while she's already waited far too long, she's hopeful a reunion is in her future.
I still do have faith, in part because you're here, you know, so in huge part because of that. So, you know, I have a good gut feeling that it'll work out, but it is just insulting.
Daniel hired a lawyer who told him USPS would only be liable for the insurance value, about $100. All three of the people we interviewed said they don't want money. They want accountability. The USPS told our team that in a roughly 2-year period, it had more than 2,100, quote, service requests for cremated remains packages, and added that anyone whose loved one's remains are lost should go to its webpage that you see on your screen below. Up next, neither snow nor rain nor heat. Mail carriers are prepared to deliver in the worst of conditions. But what about in the face of an armed robber? That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. According to the U.S. Postal Service, mail carriers are tasked with delivering more than 162 million pieces of mail nationwide every single day. Oftentimes, they're a familiar, even friendly face in our neighborhoods. But according to the USPS data, nearly 500 mail carriers were robbed on their routes in 2022, with that number on track to be even higher last year. Heather Graff digs into the increase and the call for change.
This surveillance video out of Memphis, Tennessee is just one example. And another in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh my God, here.
Mail carriers being robbed, often at gunpoint.
Please, no.
Across the country, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service has issued wanted posters and alerts about these violent crimes. And agency data provided in response to our Freedom of Information Act request shows the surge from 153 mail carrier robberies nationwide in 2020 to more than triple that, 471 robberies in 2022.
We've seen a drastic change.
Brian Renfro is president of the National Association of Letter Carriers that represents thousands of men and women who he says now fear their job is making them a target.
It breaks my heart, but infuriates me at the same time. Beyond the physical toll, there's certainly an emotional toll.
Why are letter carriers being targeted? What are these thieves after?
It's about gaining access to the mail. Lots of criminal organizations developed elaborate check-washing schemes
to access more mail more quickly. The U.S. Postal Service has said criminals are specifically targeting letter carriers' master keys, known as arrow keys, which can then be used to open these blue collection boxes, along with cluster mailboxes common in apartment and townhome communities. And the USPS reports an increase in high-volume thefts from those mail receptacles, with more than 38,000 such incidents in fiscal year 2022. For instance, this theft caught on camera in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I mean, these keys are on the dark web for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a key.
That's Postmaster General Louis DeJoy talking about the stolen arrow keys during a May 2023 hearing on Capitol Hill, and lawmakers pressing DeJoy on the USPS response.
The problem is getting more serious.
The Postmaster General then described plans for expanded crime prevention measures under a new initiative known as Project Safe Delivery. It includes the rollout of 12,000 high-security blue collection boxes, plus 49,000 electronic locks with double validation systems in select cities. And though the USPS declined our request for an interview and wouldn't answer questions about the project's timeline or scope, DeJoy himself, in that congressional hearing, said this.
The quantity of locations that we have boxes is in the millions. So this is a several-year project.
Slow progress that's led workers to begin holding rallies saying enough is enough. This one in Chicago.
Enough is enough.
And a few weeks later in Cincinnati.
He saw me and came after me, attacked me.
Where letter carriers called for better protection, policing, prosecution, and public awareness.
In a lot of ways, it's like turning a big ship.
Renfro hoping all of those actions combined could make a difference.
Do you worry that it will get worse before it gets better?
I worry every day that it will get worse. It gives us a sense of urgency. We simply ask that if you're out there and you're a postal customer, just look out for us too.
In a statement, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service told us these cases are a top priority, noting that armed robbery of a postal employee is a federal crime punishable by up to 25 years in prison. And as part of Project Safe Delivery, the agency said it's also conducting periods of intensive operations and surveillance in different cities, working with local, state, and federal partners. We've learned those targeted efforts led to about 100 arrests for robbery and more than 500 arrests related to mail theft as of late 2023.
Thanks, Heather. Coming up, government officials are still sounding the alarm on a rising scheme involving a nearly obsolete payment method. What you need to know about check fraud after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. A clever scam continues to surge in popularity, and it means you really need to be careful about using checks to make payments. Rachel DePapa finds out how you can avoid becoming a target in this week's Watching Your Wallet.
The feds, the AARP, even the Better Business Bureau are still sounding the alarm about check washing. That's when thieves steal your check from your mailbox and then wash off the writing using a chemical so they can rewrite the check to themselves for a much higher amount, leaving you all the debt. Michael Joyce with the financial firm Agili says he's seen this scam a lot lately.
You want to do like really some simple things like make sure that you're not putting your mail in the mailbox with the flag up, or even we've seen people stealing checks from deposit boxes directly in front of bank branches.
He says one simple thing you can do is fill out all of your checks using a gel pen. They're designed with pigments suspended in a water-based gel. That makes them resistant to most chemicals. These pens can also work on surfaces that other pens would not, especially porous material like a paper check. You can even try using a check that has built-in security features. I'm talking about a watermark, micro printing, or the use of special inks.
And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. Hope to see you next week.